So I think a person we have to talk about that's been a massive disappointment this season. Granted, it's only been a small sample of him in his career. Has been J.J. McCarthy, and again, it may not be fair to criticize him after only 6 career games in 2 years. Of course, with him being out for the whole year last year with the injury in the preseason and having a couple injuries along the way this year, almost missing half the season in terms of total games, 5 games out being out. But I do think we should have the discussion a little bit to a point. And it does remind me a little bit of Anthony Richardson. Now, I'm not saying it's the same thing about him pulling himself out of the game because he's tired, but the same instance of just a massive disappointment. You look at a team that is especially more so for the Vikings. Maybe you could say the same thing for the Colts because of how they look now, but more so for the Vikings because of the expectations and how it was last year with Sam Darnold. You saw the ceiling, at least not the ceiling, but at least the heights that it can go to. You saw the ceiling with Sam Darnold, so you thought, well, if J.J. McCarthy can be a little bit better than Sam Darnold, it can be much, much better. You already have you already have great weapons. J.J. McCarthy, or sorry, Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. You have a solid offensive line. You look at PFF going to Week 12; they were ranked 12th in the league, so definitely a more adequate offensive line to get by. You have T.J. Hawkinson, no injury, I know injury concerns as well, but still a solid tight end, as well as the running game. Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason, not the best, but certainly serviceable at this point right now. As well as you look at Brian Flores with his defense too. On top of that, it certainly seems like it's overall wise, and of course for the head coach with Kevin O'Connell, it seems like it's a whole recipe for McCarthy to excel and succeed, and it's not been like that. Again, could be very, I care, certainly not appropriate to again bash him because of only 6 career games in his entire thing so far, entire NFL season, but it's still. Again, I think it's still to a point valid. And I said we need to be honest about J.J. McCarthy, aka 9, his alter ego, which they both suck, 9 and McCarthy. He's bad. Throughout 6 games, he's thrown for 929 yards, 6 touchdowns, 10 receptions, with a 54.1 completion percentage, which you saw on screen as I was ranting just a minute ago on ESPN. Is it fair to bash him through only 6 games? Probably not, but it's not looking good so far. I mean, a period there in between there so far. He needs to step up. And I think, again, and I stand by this absolutely. Again, this really to me looks similar to Anthony Richardson, and you can really look at maybe it was a mistake letting go of Sam Darnold. Now, to be transparent, to be honest, I did make a couple of videos about this. Now, I did say that they shouldn't have brought back Sam Darnold long term. That they should have tried to bring him back on a 1-year deal. Maybe I said 2 years at least, but it's only a 1-year deal. And of course, Sam Darnold didn't want that. He wanted to be a starter somewhere else. He wanted long term security with the money and so forth, which no problem with that whatsoever. He wants to get another opportunity being a starter. I have no problem with that. I was a bit more harsh on Donald because I just didn't think he was going to be able to replicate what he did in Seattle in Minnesota and what he's doing in Seattle right now. And, to be honest, again, I was wrong with that. I think he's been pretty good so far. He's had a couple bad games, especially the Rams game, 4 interceptions, but overall he has done well. You see Jackson Smith-Njigba being the leading receiver and could potentially, if he keeps going, break the single season record for most receiving yards. So you look at that, you look at what they've done so far there for McDonald, his defense, the offense as well, even though I think they're still missing maybe a few pieces offensively, going into next offseason. I still think they need another receiver alongside Jackson Smith. Even I know you got Rashid Shaheed, but I still think you need more help on that offensive side. But again, great season so far for the Seattle Seahawks. And I was wrong about Sam Darnold. I was wrong. I didn't think he was going to play as well as he has. So credit to him. But it's all making this even worse of seeing how McCarthy has been, or the lack of, when you look at, again, how it was for the Vikings, 15 wins. I know they had a short out, bounce out relatively early in the playoffs, which is, certainly was disappointing, and which led to me saying that I don't trust Sam Darnold. You saw towards late in the season against better opponents that he struggled a little bit. The offensive line did struggle throughout those games as well, so it's not all on him. But I point to that as saying, hey, don't give him a long-term extension. Don't give him the big money. You saw in those big moments there that he kind of fell short of that. But still, you look at what Sam Darnold did there, 15 wins. Again, it's unfair for McCarthy. Very short time of playing career-wise, only 6 career games this season. But still, you look at the expectations of where the Minnesota is right now. It is a win-now situation for the roster and what they have. I think certainly if they had a serviceable, if you go back to Sam Darnold being quarterback, that this team would be one of the best teams in the NFC. or if you want to see me in the NFL again with that. They have the pieces. They are good enough. And you see kind of the frustrations with Justin Jefferson, with the offense and so forth. It's not going well. Between him and Carson Wentz at the helm, it's not been great for that. And I don't want to go as far as say that, yes, you should get rid of them for that, after the season or so forth. But I do think there has to be a little bit of an uncomfortable conversation. I feel like I always say a lot in tweets and stuff like that, uncomfortable conversations. But I do think there needs to be something with that, with the understanding that you look at the NFL now, quarterbacks are given a short leash. We've seen plenty of quarterbacks be one and done for their rookie seasons. I mean, go back to Josh Rosen, played his rookie year, played bad, and they moved off him, the first overall pick. You look at other instances as well where people quarterbacks get a short leash where it's 1 year, a couple of years, or so forth, maybe less than what people expect it to, but. Certainly McCarthy could be in a situation with that where you have really a good team overall. Are there some holes? Yes, they're not perfect all around, but certainly a team that's good enough to be in the playoffs. And the fact that they are struggling the way they are and the record they have right now it's abysmal. When you look at kind of breaking down really McCarthy's stats through these games so far. And it is. You look at especially this past game on Sunday or yesterday, is the day recording. It's horrible. I don't care if it's a rookie or whoever it may be. The fact that you throw for under 100 yards in a game is insane. The way how it's set up now for quarterbacks. And of course, you've seen Justin Fields throw for 100 yards multiple times, which is also not great either. But again, the fact that you go 12 of 19, 87 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 picks, 63.2 completion percentage, it's horrible. His best game, if you want to go back to at least for passing wise, was back on a few games ago against Baltimore. He was 20 of 42, horrible completion percentage. I mean, lost that game as well, about 248 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. I don't even know where the best game he really overall for from start to finish. I think he's giving you quarters here and there, but I think for the most part, there's not really a game you could point to and say this is undisputed his best performance. It's very up and down, as opposed to if you want to call him still a rookie in his second season, because again, it's very unfortunate that he missed all of last season because he got hurt after the first preseason game and sat out. And again, I think the worst thing that ever happened, which was great for the Vikings, had a great season last year and success, but I think the worst thing that happened for the Vikings was Sam Darnold panning out and Sam Darnold really having success there and having a 15-win season, because now it put this huge, the huge standard, which is, I don't issue with that whatsoever, pushing your players and trying to push more from the team, but it just set maybe for some people a unreasonable standard or unreasonable bar for J.J. McCarthy to kind of pass over, at least reach in his first season being really a rookie again. And whether it's fair or not, and it's the NFL where quarterbacks or players in general just don't get a long time to play and have the opportunity to start. So I do think that should be a little bit of a concern with McCarthy and how he's played so far. Again, you look at stats, it's very abysmal. It is. You look at going back 54.1 completion percentage, not even 1,000 yards yet, 6 touchdowns, 10 receptions. I don't want to be someone that really raves about projected stats because it varies every single week. It can be, if they have a great game, it also boosts up to immense stats. Or you look at, if someone has a bad game like McCarthy, it drops down. I mean, take, for example, Myles Garrett. I looked at his projected stats. It projects him to have over 27 sacks in the season. That's ridiculous because they have the 3 sacks last game. So, again, take it for the grain of salt or how you feel about it. But projected stats right now, they have him at, at 54.1 completion percentage, which he's averaging right now. Just, under 1,500 yards passing the whole season, 9 touchdowns, 15 receptions, and a 57.1 passer rating. That is very concerning for his rookie season. That is horrible for any standard, regardless of how you feel about the circumstance. It is horrible. And, for me, I was never a fan of McCarthy, even though I've made videos defending McCarthy in the way of going against Sam Darnold, saying, hey, they picked the guy, they traded up for him. He's their franchise quarterback. It was more just off of that, per se, with it, too. And, of course, what I said about Sam Darnold, too, about how I'm not fully committed to him, fully sure that he is what he was with Minnesota, but it was a great spot for him to really bounce back. And again, hats off to him. I was wrong. He's doing pretty well in Seattle. But I never understood the hype for McCarthy. After the championship game against Washington, for some reason from there on till the draft, his stock rose immensely. I saw some mock drafts have him go as far as a top 3 pick for that. And I just didn't understand the hype for McCarthy. Of course, Harbaugh is going to rave about his players, rave about McCarthy, his quarterback. So I can't bash him too much, even though it's all, to a point is a BS. Yes, it is. But again, he's raving all his players up as he should. So I can't knock him for that. But the whole way of just him being a mid to late first round pick to all of a sudden rising on people's draft stocks or draft boards I just didn't get it. I thought at best he was a game manager. I thought he was not the reason why he was a part of it, of course, being the team and making the right plays. So he does deserve credit where it's due. But for the most part, it was a great defense and a great running game that got him there. If you look at the last few games, against Ohio State, and you look at the playoffs and the national championship, he didn't really do that much. It was very average at best. It was everything else around him was great. That's all it was. He was on a great team that kind of carried him there, and it was easy for him to do. And you look at the stats for his season so far, it was just okay. There's nothing that really, for me at least, that stood out, that really shocked me. Like, wow, this guy is something. This guy is special. I just never saw it from McCarthy. And why, I did project him to go high in the draft because of just the quarterback need and so forth. And, as they all did, Michael Penix, McCarthy, Bo Nix, all of them did. I just never understood the hype, the rave for him. And it's showing you this right now. He has a great team around him. And he's not doing well. Once again, why I keep saying over and over again, because I want to state that so people don't miss it. Yes, I understand he missed all of last season. He's only played 6 career games in his NFL career, but still, it's not looking good. And in my mock draft, I've kind of put one together. I haven't posted it yet, but I did have him going with Love. Yeah, Jeremiah Love out of Notre Dame with their pick as of right now, because it's just you're trying to replicate what they had in Michigan. You had a great running game, great team around them. That's what you have. You have a great defense now, and Brian Flores, however long he's going to be there, I don't know if he'll be a candidate for a head coach this offseason. You have great receivers in Justin Jefferson, who's arguably the best receiver in the league. How you feel about this season so far, but certainly for the bulk of his career has been the best receiver in the NFL. You have Jordan Addison with, of course, kind of the problems with him too, but he's still one of the better wide receiver twos in the league, certainly a touchdown machine in his career. And again, I think you have a great cast altogether. You have to surround him because he's just not a guy who's going to carry you. He's not, to me, he'll never be someone who's elite. He'll never be someone that is going to carry the team and win the biggest moments. Can he give you plays here and there? Absolutely. As for anyone, I think can. But it just, to me, it's not good enough for what Minnesota's looking for. And I think they have a great team right now. I worry, especially about someone like Justin Jefferson, where, all these guys wants their stats at some point, obviously. They want to win, of course, but at some point they got to have their stats to back up and validate themselves. And I worry about players like that maybe so you certainly see the frustration, but dare I say me wanting out. And I'm not going to sit here and say that Justin Jefferson is going to demand a trade this offseason or however it may be, but I just don't want the team to fall apart and the team to waste some years because they're waiting for J.J. McCarthy to be something that, for me at least, I don't think he'll ever be and what they're looking for. And again, you could say it's a bad trade to begin with, 10th overall. I didn't see it being him being a top 10 pick. And again, going as far as some mock drafts, him being in the top 5, I thought was just insane. I think there was maybe some over, if I have it correctly, over Drake May and some players like that, which is insane. To see that, especially looking at now how great Drake May and a couple, a few other quarterbacks have been in that draft class. Jane Daniels, I know he's had a down season, but still much better than McCarthy. Caleb Williams, how you feel about him too? On top of that, Bo Nix too, as well. And especially, Michael Penix, really everybody is better than him at this point for this one. And you look at, again, for PFF, their grades, however you feel about them, take them with a grain of salt. But you look at overall grades, he ranks 35th among quarterbacks. So he's almost third last for this one. You have 54.6% overall, 34th in the league for passing grades, 54.4. Rushing grades is better for that one, 25th, but still not the best in that category as well. So one of the lower half or almost the bottom for that too on top of that. And again, the rankings are skewed because of just how small games he's played, but it's not anything that drops, that really pops out. I guess, the ADOT here, 10.7, which he's first in that, but anything else, you have 5th in the league for average time of throw, 3.08. But again, outside of that, there's just nothing too crazy about McCarthy. Again, for me, if you want to call it bias, if you want to call it hate for me, I was never a big fan of McCarthy to begin with, so I'm never going to be really the biggest defender of him regardless. Again, even in the Sam Darnold videos, I wasn't able to defend of him, but that was more so because of just the obvious, where they traded for him, he's the franchise quarterback, they're going to give him the opportunity as opposed to signing Sam Darnold and trading J.J. McCarthy. Some people were saying that wasn't going to happen. They weren't going to trade McCarthy after Sam Darnold had a great season, even though it was great, but just one season for that. They pinned this guy as their future guy. Right or wrong, how you feel about it, that's what the direction they went with, and that was kind of what I was saying in those videos about that. And you can look at it and say, hey, it was a terrible decision. They should have kept Sam Darnold. He was playing well. He's been around the league a few times, around the league, and he's had experience. He knows what he's doing. He had great success with Minnesota, especially with Justin Jefferson and other players as well. We saw the heights they went to last year, so you could certainly say this is a massive fumble by this organization to let go of Darnold and move forward McCarthy. And where you think it's right or wrong, they should have kept him. That's for anyone else to decide, but we'll see what happens for the rest of the year. And I don't know how he might miss next game. Who knows? He's in a concussion protocol. He got hurt again for this one, so we'll see if he'll miss next week in week 13. But overall, it's just I do wonder if, going back to what I said a few minutes ago about, or in the beginning, with Anthony Richardson, where he was given kind of a short leash after his second season. They brought in Daniel Jones. They had a QB battle. And he won out. And you see what they're doing. Well, again, we will call them frauds or not because the Chiefs lost, but they are doing much better than probably what they have done with Anthony Richardson. And Anthony Richardson has been an afterthought at this point. Who knows what's going to happen to him after the season? He could probably just be released or traded. Who knows at this point? And I wonder if that's going to be the same suit with the Vikings, where they're going to bring a veteran quarterback in the offseason, whoever that may be, and try and push J.J. McCarthy to try to earn that spot. And if you lose to the spot, it could be a replication of the Colts. And again, I could be completely off, completely wrong, and they feel, regardless of how bad the season's been, fully committed to McCarthy, and they're going to give him another full season under helm, undisputed number one quarterback for the team. So who knows how it's going to play out, but again, not the biggest fan of McCarthy and not impressed at all, which I'm sure probably a lot of fans, especially Vikings fans, have been thus far with him in his early career. So I think there should be a lot of concern, but we'll see how he pans out for the rest of the season. Maybe he has a strong finish at the end. Who knows with that, but we'll see what happens for the remainder of the season, as well as going into the offseason, into year 3 of his career.